Hey guys, Ginger here. Surprise live stream because guess what? It's the end of the world as we know it. The Republic is falling before our very eyes. And I just got my boom mic down so you can actually understand me. And so here we go, right? It's been quite an exciting few days. And I don't know exactly what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks, months, next year, whatever. It's going to be interesting. So let's just sit and talk about this. Let's run through some thoughts. I'm going to be working through some thoughts with you guys in real time here. If you've got questions, queries, comments, drop them there. I will be seeing them. I'm monitoring. So hopefully we can keep some discussion going on here. It's going to be interesting. Okay, so as I think everybody knows, unless you are a hermit living in the middle of the desert somewhere, or you're part of a secret colony on Mars, you are probably fully aware of what happened January 6th, this past Wednesday in Washington, D.C. It was it was a little spicier than I was expecting. I'm not going to lie. And Jake, I appreciate your comment. I'm going to throw it up there for people to see, especially those who watch later on. I am just going to say I disavow anyone who is disavowing anyone right now. You know what? There's all kinds of disavowing going on left and right. Mostly right. The left was already disavowing everyone. So, okay. So I've had some time to think about this and everything that went on. And so I'm going to share some of that, share some of what I think should have happened. And yeah, we're just going to work through some stuff here. So I welcome any comments as we get going. And yes, Pastor G, welcome to the Twilight Zone indeed. This timeline just keeps getting worse. So, okay. So January 6th, Wednesday, there was the big, giant Stop the Steal rally in DC. I have no idea how many people were there. Apparently, it was a lot. I don't know how many. I saw some of the pictures. It was indeed a lot. It was March for Life levels. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize. Tons of people show up in DC every year for the March for Life. I've been at a few of them myself. I can personally attest to the size of the crowds, and they are massive. But I digress. So, and the president had encouraged a lot of his supporters to show up in DC for this rally, right? There was speculation flying all over the place on social media, just running rampant. Everything from this was just going, and of course the theories were that this is just going to be a normal procedural vote for Congress, and Biden will be certified to be the president-elect. This rally is just going to be a bit of grandstanding at the most on Trump's part, and that's about it. That's about all some people expected to go down. Others were like, well, then you have like on the other extreme, you've got the Linwood contingent that is like, it's going to be revealed that Mike Pence and John Roberts are part of the secret pedophile ring that was meeting in the basement of Comet Pizza, and they're going to lead a coup, and they're either going to be led out to a firing squad, or they're going to lead Donald Trump out to a firing squad, and the aliens are going to come. I don't know, man. I'm sorry, but that guy has been tweeting some crazy stuff. And put it this way, I actually kept my mouth shut about it for a couple of days because, like, you know what? On the off chance that he's not a loon, let's give some time and see if it actually happens. Let's see if he actually shows some sort of evidence showing that the crazy spouting is right. Because, again, normally I would not even go there. But we live in a world in which we're getting lied to daily about COVID, about where it's getting treated like the plague when it's basically a glorified flu. We're getting, we've got people like Fauci and the CDC literally admitting to lying to us, or saying they were lying to us. I think they're lying to us now, actually, but that's beside the point. We live in a world where Epstein did not kill himself. We live in a world in which the Democrats literally led a successful impeachment against a partially successful impeachment against the president because they didn't like his foreign policy and in a phone call that he made. We live in a world in which they were literally selling conspiracies about a tape where he had Russian hookers peeing on a mattress. They literally sold that for 4 years as evidence that he was a Putin puppet. So yeah, I'm willing to go ahead and entertain a little crazy every now and again. Okay, but if you're gonna bring the crazy, you gotta bring the evidence for the crazy. Okay, that's all I'm saying about that. That's all I'm saying about the Linwood contingent. Okay, now in the middle were those who are like, well, I mean, maybe Trump actually does have a plan, because one thing that's for sure is, amongst the things that have made me much more willing to listen to and accept the possibility of some crazy, is of course the way the whole election has gone. Because I mean, we literally live in a world in which we have on video people pulling boxes, suitcases, whatever you want to call them, I don't care, of ballots out from underneath the table after everyone else left, and running them through the same machines multiple times. And then, about the same time that they were done, suddenly there's a massive voter dump almost entirely for Biden. The timeline lines up remarkably well, and we live in a world, we've got video evidence of that. And lo and behold, the media tells us, oh, they weren't really under the table, they were next to it. We've got it on video where they're pulling it out from underneath. So screw you, media. Yeah, I'm gonna listen to a little crazy every now and again. So anyway, in the middle, we've got people who are like, you know what? Yeah, it's a weird world out there. Maybe there is a plan, because it's pretty clear that there were some serious voter shenanigans that went on. There are definitely grounds for declaring this a fraudulent election, for at least saying, I am the president and I'm going to order an investigation into all of this. And nothing is happening until this investigation is done. And it could, and honestly, I think the fair way to go about it would be to say there is literally nothing that's going to happen. I'm not going to issue any executive orders. Basically, there's not going to be it's going to be a government shutdown except for this investigation. Okay, that I would have loved for something like that. There were rumors flying around. I heard some, and I didn't even hear them first on social media. I heard them from people that I know, that there were stuff that was going to go down like before Christmas, and the Insurrection Act was going to get invoked, and people were going to be getting sent to prison and all kinds of crazy stuff, right? And there was some stuff, percolating through the regular media that kind of lined up with it, but didn't happen. Okay. Then of course after that didn't pan out, I was hearing thoughts that, he's going to do it on, January 6th. I'm like, I was highly skeptical of that. I was like, yeah, maybe, but, we've been hearing this sort of thing for literally months now, that, there was the grand plan and there was going to be some sort of act. So something big was going to happen. And lo and behold, nothing has. Okay. Yeah. A bunch of people breaking into the Capitol building and ransacking a bunch of congressional offices. That is a big deal. This poor woman who got shot and died, and the police officer who died after getting whacked in the back of the head with a fire extinguisher. Yes, those are big deals, but it's not the big deal we were all expecting, kind of hoping for, really. So where does that leave us, right? I mean, a bunch of us were wanting something to happen. We're wanting Trump to step up to the plate and say, kind of do the whole here and no further thing, right? But it didn't. It just kind of shows that nothing. I don't think. I don't think that. I think it shows, and honestly, I've said this repeatedly for the last 4 years, that he's not really the fighter that a lot of people have said he was. That he's not really the guy that we wanted him to be. That we kind of that we kind of needed, right? He's not quite that guy. I think looking at everything, I think he flails around, occasionally hits the right target. It's always fun watching him slap around the media, slap around the Democrats. That's fun, right? And it needs to be done. I'm glad he did it, right? And he did actually initiate some actual conservative policies that no one else would have had the guts to do. So still props for that. Okay. I'm not denying any of that. But Jake Point says that just because something doesn't follow a plan exactly doesn't mean there wasn't a plan or that it wasn't successful. Well, I would say that if Trump had a plan, it hasn't been successful. I think we can definitely say that, at least at this point. Now, maybe I suppose it's possible that he's still got some some massive ace up his sleeve, but literally there's less than 2 weeks now before Biden's inaugurated. And I honestly, I don't think so. I don't think he's got it. I think it would have been done by now. I was willing to kind of hold out the possibility until Wednesday, and it's not because of the riot that I'm actually saying this. I should first say that. It's because I can understand where there's a bunch of moving parts that would have to come into play. That, considering the magnitude of what would need to be done, is huge. Okay. And I can understand there's difficulties in getting all those pieces in place. I don't deny that for a moment. And that may take a little time. I didn't even, when things didn't go before Christmas, I was like, maybe you just decided we'll let the country have a Christmas and New Year's before we before we do something that is going to set it on fire. I can see that. So, but here we are. That riot happened, and everybody was running around condemning it, or some people were praising it. Most of your blue checks, obviously the left blue checks, all that. And I'm not even going to spend any time harping on their hypocrisy. You can listen to a million other people do that, and sure, yeah, they're hypocrites. Duh. In other news, the sky is still blue, water is still wet, the moon still is not made out of blue cheese, and we're still here. Okay, it hasn't changed. Pointing that out, who are we trying to convince at that? Really, I don't know. I guess it's sometimes you need to preach to the choir, and sometimes it's nice to hear what you already know. But I've got other things on my mind right now, and amongst those other things is a thought is, okay, am I against the concept of just saying, you know what, we're done with this. We're done with this show. We're done with this circus. The government has to go. I am not against that in principle at all. To be perfectly honest, at this point in time, it is clear to me that the government is not working. The system is not working. The system is openly being used against us. So I am not opposed in principle at all to saying, nope, sorry, you're not working for us anymore. Consent of the government is hereby revoked, and we are done with you people. And it, frankly, that's what we did in 1776. Okay, we played by the rules. We followed the system, and it went on for years. And in the end, it just became, you know what? You got to go. And I do think that's about where we are now. So, in principle, I'm not necessarily against the whole taking over the Capitol building, to be perfectly honest. I'm not. However, what was done was not really that. What was done was, it was an emotional outburst. There was no plan. And that, frankly, that's one of my biggest issues with it. There was no plan. It was just, we're going to do this thing, and what happens after? I don't know. But they're going to know we mean business now. No, that's not the way this is going to play out. Unfortunately, I would love it if it played out that way, but it's not. It's not going to play out that way. I have been saying this ever. I've been saying this at least privately since the spring, since probably April. I've been saying it publicly for months now too, that this is exactly the kind of thing the left has been trying to push us to, ever since all of the COVID lockdown started. There was 15 days to slow the spread, and the first extension past that, guess what? That was the first step in trying to push us into something like this. They tried the COVID lockdowns for a while. It didn't seem like that was working. So all of a sudden the riots started, right? Then they subsided. We got more COVID stuff and COVID riots ever since the spring. They have been trying to push some sort of violent response from the right. And there have been a couple of hints here and there that maybe that was going to happen. And then, there was, of course, the storming of the state capitol in Lansing, which was not a storming. The cops literally just let them in, and everyone submitted to temperature screenings as well. That wasn't a storming, but it was portrayed that way in the media, even including some people like Ben Shapiro portrayed it that way. Well, no, he didn't. He didn't portray, because he actually pointed out the temperature screenings and everything. I got to be fair, but he was all very upset about it. He was very upset about the optics. I'm like, yeah, you know what? They were there with guns, and I'm sure the legislators were a little nervous. And frankly, I don't blame them. I also don't blame the people who showed up there with the guns. I don't think I would have, but I don't blame them for doing it, because I'm not really upset if the government is reminded that the peasants have pitchforks. Then there was, of course, the apparent kidnapping attempt on Governor Whitmer that was shut down quickly, and I noticed that disappeared from the media fairly quickly as well. Probably when it was brought out that, yeah, these guys aren't really hardcore right wingers at all. They're more like fringe anarchists than anything else. But now we've got, and then of course there was the Nashville bombing, which that's a bit of a mystery. That's got swept under the rug about as quickly as the Las Vegas shooting. There's a lot of oddities going on out there. But in any case, they finally did it. They've finally managed to push the right into some sort of somewhat violent emotional outburst. And I'm not going to oversell the violence of what happened at the Capitol, because it was mostly peaceful, right? And it mostly was. There's a video. Gosh, I've got to go back and watch it on Twitter that was retweeted by El Jaji Lamplighter. She's a Catholic fantasy author. And in any case, that in and of itself is an interesting thing, mostly because I was watching some videos today that at least they look like they're showing that some of the people who were breaking windows and everything to get in were, the crowd was screaming that they were Antifa and they were trying to stop them. Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, as easy as it is to doctor things these days, I don't know. But possibly, especially since people did start saying that almost right away. That said, obviously some people that were inside, I'm sure, were also doing some of the ransacking, were in fact Trump supporters. So, I mean, we can't blame it all on Antifa, right? You could maybe say they instigated some of it, maybe, but I'm going to need to see some hardcore proof. There's also the fact that at least in some places, cops actually just let the protesters in, which would be in keeping with their standards for all of the BLM and Antifa riots throughout the summer, including the the protest, I guess the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearings, which made their way into the Capitol, into the front door of the Supreme Court. Let's not pretend that people haven't been protesting and burning things all summer long. And this isn't just to harp on the hypocrisy. It's like, let's just keep it. This is more pointing out context. Okay. And yeah. Yeah, this is it. This is true, at least in part, because we also, that it was a tame riot. People stayed in the velvet ropes somewhat. I also have videos where people were, I don't know, like scuffling, I would say, with police. Fighting seems a bit too much for what I saw in the video, but, and I know where that is in the Capitol. I was actually literally just there last year about this time. So yeah, there was definitely some scuffling going on. Obviously, there's the pictures of people in congressional offices and everything, who they were, what they were doing. I don't know. I'm not going to get into too much speculation. I would, again, as usual, I want some evidence, one way or the other. We do know apparently that Pelosi's laptop was stolen, so I would say watch her and what she does over the next couple of weeks. That'll be a strong indicator of exactly who has that laptop. Because if she suddenly starts going straight up with AOC's agenda, far left, far progressive agenda, like with no hint of pushback and, hey, slow your roll, fair bet the left has got her laptop. If she starts trying to stonewall it and slow down through procedures, the right's got it. We'll find out. It's going to be super interesting over the next few weeks. I don't like it. I don't. Anyway, we'll get into what I don't like here just a little bit. So in any case, short to recap my thoughts on the riot, the protest. In principle, I've got no particular issue with it. However, there was no plan. There was nothing. What do we do after this? There was no thought given to that whatsoever. It was a violent emotion. It was an emotional outburst, and it's something that the left is going to be using against us. Like I said, I've been saying they've been pushing us to this for ever since the spring, and they finally got what they wanted. All right. So that gets right into what is it that I don't like about what's going to come next? Well, just about everything. Because this is the excuse they've been waiting. This is the excuse that they're going to use to do a massive crackdown on what? Everything. I mean, they've already got international travel restricted with using COVID as the excuse, right? They've toyed with restricting interstate travel. They haven't, for the most part, there hasn't been a lot of seriousness about enforcing it yet. I would look for them to get more serious about that. Depending on where you live, who your governor is, there have been severe restrictions on religious liberty and on the freedom to assemble for just about anything else, unless it's a BLM or Antifa riot. Expect that to continue. Expect that to ramp up, because if there's one thing we know that the left loves to do, and by the left I mean your neighbor with the we believe in science sign. I mean the media. I mean the Democrats. I mean Hollywood. Basically, all of it. That's what I mean by the left. I mean that big, huge, vast group of people. Corporate America. Can't forget that. I mean all of it. That's what I mean by the left. The left will ramp this up. They will ramp up all of these restrictions because, again, as I was saying before I went on my brief little tangent, they love to associate everything that somebody does bad on the right. They love to paint that person, whoever does it, has a religious right-wing nut job, whether it's applicable or not. And then they proceed to tar every single person on the right with exactly that label, especially if you're religious. Many of the people over there in the chat are very religious, albeit of different religions. Still, they love it, and especially since we're all some permutation of Christian. Guess what? We're the ones they really hate. So they're going to ramp it all up. I don't think anyone's surprised by that. This is hard. Again, this is kind of like saying the sky is blue and water is wet. There's no surprise there. But they've been doing it for months. Now their foot is going to go right on the accelerator, and it's going to hit the floor as soon as Biden's inaugurated. And again, unless something just like crazy happens that, frankly, I don't foresee at this point, that he's going to get inaugurated. They managed to steal both the Senate seats in Georgia. Shocker, right? You don't change the corrupt system that they use to help steal the presidency. And lo and behold, using the same playbook, hey, we're going to stop counting, and then poof, an hour later, there's a massive voter dump for both Democrat candidates that looks almost exactly the same, and it's a straight up curve. Boy, we could use to flatten that curve, huh? And then lo and behold, hello, they're projected winners, and boy, golly, that was a close race, wasn't it? Give me a break. Are you kidding me right now? Why do you think those people in DC were pissed off? We're not idiots. We can see what's literally happening in front of our eyes. And frankly, although this is an overused term and I'm kind of sick of it, the absolute transparent gaslighting on the part of the media is not going to convince me that this election was not, at the very least, thoroughly rife with irregularities. It was almost certainly stolen. I'm not going to go off on the whole, was it really a landslide thing? I don't know. I'm not going to go and say Trump really won New York and California and all of that. No. I'm going to say I'm pretty sure he won. I will go that far. So they're going to ramp it all up. And they're already ramping it up. I don't know if you've noticed that, if for some reason, again, you're still in that hermitage in the middle of the desert somewhere, and you're still catching up. Trump is not just certain things restricted, not just a temporary suspension. He is permanently kicked off of Twitter. Incidentally, he's still president. He's permanently kicked off of Twitter and I think pretty much every mainstream social media platform, including Shopify. Which I'm not entirely sure what Shopify is, but it has to do with internet commerce. Every Trump affiliated company is banned from Shopify. Yeah, they're literally cutting him off from commerce. So that's fun. Okay, so they're just doing it to him. Yeah, right. Remember when they were just banning Alex Jones from all of their platforms? Which I'm no huge Alex Jones fan. But remember that? Remember when it was just like, yeah, you're just, maybe going after the crazy extreme ones. Everyone else should be fine. Yeah, right. They started restricting shadow banning just about everybody else in the weeks and months thereafter. Now, they're literally taking Steve Deace, who is posting his Parler account. He's got a Parler account. Now, he posted that on Facebook. That post pointing people to his Parler account was fact-checked and restricted. It gets worse. Apparently, over the last couple of days, if you are on Twitter, as I think most of the people out there are, they are apparently going through and banning people on the right just like crazy, just in droves. People are losing followers. Now, it might be that some of them aren't getting banned per se. They might just be abandoning ship and heading over to Parler or MeWe or wherever. I don't know, but There's a lot of them, and it's all happening at once. It's fair to say they're getting just banned. They're just getting kicked out. They're using these private companies are censoring us, and I'm not okay with it at all. I am I am not I am not the I am not a libertarian purist who is going to sit here and say, well, it's okay if a private company censors me and takes away all of my natural rights because they're a private company. They can do what they want. I can always go use another one. No, you can't. They don't want you to. They're not going to let you just go to another platform. I don't know see, again, the warning signs were there. The warning signs were there months ago when they started going after Sargon of Akkad and Lauren Southern stuff. Patreon started going after people because of things that they said on other platforms. We don't like your speech over there, so you can't have any speech over here. And it wasn't just that. They started talking to the payment processors, to MasterCard and such, and got them to work with other companies to ban these people. Like, basically, if you have Sargon on, you can't use MasterCard. Yeah. So they're using the power to collude against you from even going to another platform. But it gets worse. Apparently, Apple and Google now are demanding that Parler institute the same sort of censorship policies, I should say, on Parler that like Twitter has. Otherwise, Apple and Google are going to kick them out of their app stores. Just go and start your own platform, they said, did they? Really? What happens when they will crush your platform? They won't give you the opportunity to do so. Oh, well, just go start your own app store and your own phone company and your own credit card company all at the same time. See, the thing is, the way this is working, they're not just going after you or me. They're going after our whole ability to communicate. I heard even Discord servers are getting taken down. Yeah, Discord, which was supposed to be one of the more secure ones, right? Uh-huh. Sure. They're watching it all to one degree or another. And if they're not in, they're trying to figure out how to. Yeah. They're literally trying to take our ability to communicate, to network, to organize the way they have. This is more nefarious, frankly, than anything that I would have entertained. Even 3-4 months ago, I don't know if I would have entertained it going to, at least not this quickly. But like I said, the foot's on the gas right now. I don't know how to get them to take it off it. I know there's a lot of people saying, we'll get them next time. 2022 isn't so far away. We'll get them to, work through the system, essentially. We should run for office. We should elect ourselves get ourselves elected to the school boards and the city councils and everything, and work it up from there. And I agree, we should do that. We should definitely be doing that. I don't disagree with that at all. And at the local level, honestly, we'll probably have some success, at least at first, at least for a while. But I also have little confidence that we're going to be afforded the opportunity to do it on the national or frankly even the state level, because as their control tightens, it will get harder and harder and harder to run. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the left can pretty much just say whatever it wants. It can literally it can make any accusation it wants, and it will get backed up by the media. The right can respond with all kinds of evidence showing that they're wrong. Or the right can point out something that is obviously true. can bring an accusation against somebody on the left, it's obviously true. They've got evidence to back it up. I'm looking at you, Hunter Biden, and your laptop. Literally right there. And it gets ignored. Swept under the rug. Oh, Russia's banned now too? Awesome. Thank you, a different Christian. Fantabulous. So, that's going on. And for crying out loud, Russia's literally on his last leg. He's literally dying of cancer. Jeez. Let the guy finish it off in peace, for crying out loud. Yeah. So now it's I don't know that we're going to be afforded the opportunity to take it back through the system. I want to. That's vastly my preference. Because the alternatives suck. Even that one kind of sucks because it's going to take a while. I think it's going to take a lot more than the 2 years till 2022 to be able to take back Congress. Okay, I don't think we're going to be able to crush our system between now and then, unless of course somebody stumbles across the true absolute smoking gun. Like, here's the code for the Dominion voting machines that shows that that shows that they were hacked, rigged, however you want to put it. Now somebody can say, here's the line of code. And here's the email saying to pull the trigger. Unless we find that, I don't think we got much hope for 2 years from now. I really don't. Some people are hoping that in the meantime, people like Joe Manchin or Tulsi Gabbard, the one or two other moderate Democrats out there, will be a check on the craziest stuff. They might, but so what? They're a check on the absolute craziest stuff. Maybe they stop packing the Supreme Court. Maybe they stop a couple of states from getting made. Maybe. But all the other things that they're going to do, they're already removing any sort of gendered language from the House. You can bet hate speech laws are going to be coming. You can bet there's going to be some really wacky gun control legislation that gets pushed. And probably goes through. It is going to get downright ugly out there. Honestly, expect crackdowns on just about anything. Expect crackdowns on homeschooling, especially if you live in a Democrat state. So, I guess that brings us, what should we do? I've been here ranting for a while about what's happened, what is likely to be happening in the next, honestly, I think few months. I think, and yes, and Greg, I agree that we should not just be getting involved in government, but trying to change the culture. And it is going to be hard. It's going to take time, and we need to be doing that. Absolutely, because let's go way back, right? Let's go back to the early Christians. They did not convert the Roman Empire with a violent revolution. They converted it basically by suffering for a few hundred years, but through prayer, fasting, through sacrifice. It eventually they won, and the Roman Empire is no more, and Christians have spread over the whole world. Rome is in memory, Christianity is alive and well, contrary to popular belief. So they definitely show us that it's possible, but also means it takes time. And let's be honest, it's not going to be real comfortable. It's going to kind of suck. But that also doesn't mean that we need to sit and take it either, because I think an important difference between the early Christians and us now is the trajectory. See, they were starting off in a place where they had zero power. They had zero ability to really fight back against the Roman persecutions. Also, it was a lot easier to hide from them. unless you were near a significant population center where there was likely to be enforcement of like Diocletian's and Nero's decrees and everything, you were probably going to be all right. Because as well connected as different parts of the Roman Empire were with each other, it was still, a couple thousand years ago. They didn't have the ability to communicate that we have today. You could hide, and you could often hide in plain sight. So, and also, we're in a place where we're losing our country. We're losing our way of life. That's a little, to my mind, that is different. That means that it's the same situation that the founders were in, right? Because part of the reason they fought that revolution wasn't to establish a new way of life. It was to preserve one that they had already been used to for a couple of generations. One that had developed here in the original 13 colonies, independent of England. Yes, still under Great Britain, obviously. But their way of life wasn't the way of life of Great Britain anymore. Hadn't been for a while. It was something different. And it was something that all of a sudden they were finding that way of life being encroached upon. And they were like, no, we're not having that. This is the way we live here. That's kind of the situation that we're in now. There's a certain way of life that, frankly, we're used to. And by and large, it's a good way of life. It really is. And that's being taken away from us now. And I do think we have the right to fight back. So, what do we do, right? Obviously, try to take back our governments. Also, something I would personally recommend is, if you have the ability, start looking into moving to, if not a deep red state, to a place in your own state where you are surrounded by people of like mind, preferably far and out of the way. Someplace where it doesn't really matter what the politicians at the state capitol do, because no one near you is enforcing it anyway. Set up these enclaves, these sanctuaries, if you will, and start coming together, working with people, and frankly, be ready to defend it physically, morally, spiritually, because we're going to be challenged on all those levels. We absolutely will be challenged on every single level you can possibly imagine, barring some sort of divine intervention. So do that. Work with your friends, work with your neighbors. Get to know them. If you already know them and you already know they're kind of on the other side, that's when you should probably be looking at relocating. If you're not already in one of those sanctuary areas, see if you can find one. I know I'm going to be. I'm going to be looking hard. I can't do it right now. It's going to be a while yet before I'm able to relocate. But when I am able, yeah, I'm looking at relocating. It might be to another state. It might be a different area in my state. I don't know yet. Don't worry, it's going to be a while yet. So, those who need to know, I will inform through other means, but it will not be public. I can assure you of that. And because when they do start coming, and it's going to be a little bit yet before they start coming directly for people like you and me. But we need to use the time in the meantime to get ready for when they do. Because if it's just you, if it's just me that they're coming for, let's face it, we're going to lose. We're going to lose. We're going to lose bigly. Maybe make them work for it. But let's face it, if it's just you and me and just on our own, we're going to get ruby ridged. Big time. There's no getting around that. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. So do that. Obviously, I've said this many times before. Pray, 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 pray. Because we ain't getting through this on our own. Divine intervention is a thing, but often it's a small thing. Often it happens in little bits here and there, often in response to our prayer. God's waiting for us to come to Him. Start doing that. Pray, as they say, as though everything depends on Him. But work like everything depends on you. Because God works through people. You, me, your neighbor. So we need to be working too. And there's lots of different kinds of work to do. This isn't a call that everybody needs to go out and buy a rifle if they don't already have one. No, because we need the prayer warriors. We need the people who will who will keep alive the culture of the past. We need people that will create new culture. We need people that will defend them when the bad guys come. You know, I'm always reminded of I've frequently on my mind these days is a quote from Lord of the Rings, and it's Faramir speaking. He loves not the sword for its sharpness, the arrow for its swiftness. He loves them for that which they defend. He loves them for the gardens, for the art, for the literature, for the camaraderie, the friendship, the faith. He loves those things because what they defend is worth defending. That's why. Keep first things first in your mind. And doing that, keeping God first in your mind, keeping what you're defending, what you're fighting for first in your mind is what will keep you from becoming the left. That will keep you from becoming the monster that you hate. This is the way. Sorry, I thought of it. I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry. We got to have a little levity every now and then too, right? So, as I said, and still, we got to go. We've got to. If this country's going down, we're going down swinging. All right, one way or the other. All right, this is not a country made for people who are interested in going gently into that good night. This is a country of this is a country of innovators. It's a country of fighters. It's a country of independent people who are also willing to come together for the greater good when need be. Now we are at that time now. It need be. We need to come together for the greater good. That doesn't mean ignoring all of our various differences and everything, but it does mean keeping them in perspective. All right? We can't be at each other's throats about certain things. We have to come together and remember who our real enemy is, who the real enemy is. And the real enemy is not your neighbor. It's not even the media. It's not even the left as a whole. The real enemy, frankly, is the devil, and he is playing us like a freaking fiddle right now. The devil done come down to Georgia, and the devil done won this time around. One round. Now, if you guys know the song, it's time for us to be Johnny, take up our own fiddle, and fight back. Maybe better yet, pick up our fiddle, put it in God's hands. He'll play us the way, let him play us for a change, right? Wouldn't that be nice? That's a tune I'd rather dance to. So, what else? I think that's about it, really. Disconnect yourself from the system as much as you can, because the system is already being used against us. That doesn't mean I'm saying you have to completely divest yourself of everything. I think these means of communication, staying informed of what's going on, are still important right now while we have access to them. But by disconnecting from the system, I mean develop the ability to live independently of the system. If you have the opportunity, learn at least some of homesteading. Learn how to grow some of your own food. Learn how to raise some of your own animals. Learn how to have a job that isn't necessarily dependent on someone else, especially a job that maybe is for a major corporation that will come up with some really strange requirements for you to continue to work there. You know, things like thou shalt take the COVID vaccine if you want to continue your employment. I think that's coming sooner or later. You know, if you can be independently employed, well, you probably aren't going to get rich, but you might make enough to get by and you won't be dependent on the system. Again, if you do this as much as you possibly can, make yourself more able to live, frankly, in the middle of nowhere. Make yourself, as Matt Christensen put it, make yourself harder to kill. And find other people who are interested in doing the same. Because we got to be able to help each other right now. We got to encourage each other. Because I ain't gonna sugarcoat it. I don't hope you don't think I have been. It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be a rough few years at the very least. I'm not gonna like any of it. But we're not victims. We're not gonna sit here and pretend we're victims. We're not gonna sit here and pretend that we can't do anything. We're not gonna sit here and wait anymore for a Trump or any other politician to come along and save us. It's not gonna happen. Okay? These people are not they they are not they're not going to be here to save us. We want to do this. We rely on God, and then we rely on each other. That's how. That's why, like the Steve Day show, they have a show theme every year. Last year's was "Assume You're Being Lied to." Boy, were they ever right about that one. This year's is "We Are the Answer." We used to. I remember the right used to mock Obama about some odd things, really, if you think about it. Mocked him for being a community organizer. Mocked him for saying, be the change you want to see in the world, borrowing a quote from Gandhi. Went after him because he had because apparently he did some hard drugs back in the day. Well, you know what? There's a lot of reasons to go after Obama. I'm no fan of his, but those are kind of the wrong things to go after him on, don't you think? Think about it. Working within our communities to help improve it. Not to say that that's exactly what Obama was doing, but they never really specified that. They just kept, saying, hey, he was a community organizer and snickering. That's the kind of, at least what comes to mind when I think of community organizer, someone who works within the community and helps to improve it. That's a thing that the right should encourage. Doing some hard drugs. Got over that, presumably. That's and went to become president. That's actually a pretty good story. Be the change. Yeah, it's saying don't wait on other people to take care of things for you. Get up and do it your own dang self. That's a good message. That's a fundamentally conservative message. It's probably why one of the things that made Obama appeal so widely to so many people is because he knew how to how to play things very well and appeal across across a broad swath. And we've got to take some of that on ourselves. Yes, be the change you want to see in the world, because guess what? Nobody's coming to do it for you. Nobody's coming to do it for us. Jake. This is actually one of my favorite conspiracy theories that Michelle's actually a man. uh, I'm sorry. I love that. Thanks for lightening it up a little. um. Anyway, get out there, work together, work on yourself, work on each other. We can do this. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be easy. It likely is going to, no matter what happens, it's likely going to take years. No matter how this goes. Incidentally, what I see going on, because either way, a lot of people are going to be moving to the red states. We are going to start to separate, not just ideologically. We're going to start to separate geographically now. It's already underway. Blue states have lost hundreds of thousands of people in their population, while red states have gone up hundreds of thousands. So that's going to accelerate now. And that is perhaps the vehicle by which we eventually do have a more, that's the one way we could wind up having a more traditional civil war, where the two sides are separated ideologically, and eventually one decides, okay, we're either it goes, one side decides, we can't handle you living anymore, so we're going to come after you, and you will be made to conform. Or one side says, you know what, we don't want to live with you anymore, so we're going to go ahead and do our own thing over here. And then the other side probably will say, yeah, no, we don't think so. We did this once before, and yeah, we're going to go ahead and yep, Civil War 2.0. Here we go. That's one way we could wind up with an actual Civil War 2.0, as opposed to like a factionalized mess, the kind of things that you see like over in Africa, which is the more likely thing to happen recently. And it's interesting. I'm going to toot my own horn for just a second. Back when I was in the Navy, that's when I really started to actually do some serious reading. Politics, philosophy, theology. Started to really look into things a lot more than I ever had before. Before, I always read, but it was always either scientific or it was, some sort of novel. So, and I started to see, doing all my reading, it's like, wow, yeah, there are some serious fissures in American culture. I was like, yeah, we're going to have another Civil War, definitely. I think it's going to be a while yet. I don't know what the catalyst is going to be. And it's like, yeah, my guess would be 100 years or so. And I was like, I don't know if the catalyst is going to be class, race, religion. I don't know. Could be any of them. So I'm not entirely sure what that catalyst is exactly. You could probably argue that you could make an argument for anything. I'd argue religion is the real one. But, that was 20 years ago now. Like literally. Literally, within a few months of 20 years ago is when I got out of the Navy. I clearly was off on my timetable. I was not expecting it anywhere near this quickly. Here we are, a fifth of the way to what I was thinking. And now it can literally explode. I mean, potentially any day. My guess, it won't explode till after Biden is inaugurated, and the 100 days mandatory mask mandate goes into effect. Mandatory mandate. Sorry, redundant. It's repetitively redundant. That goes into place, and whatever other crazy restrictions and everything that he starts doing start to hit. That's more likely when we're going to have something that'll trigger the radical factionalization, which then will absolutely trigger a martial law type situation. And then we find out how the military is going to break down, and boy, won't that be a good time. So I think I'm about said everything original that I can possibly say. Tomorrow I'm going to actually be doing my regular live stream. I'll be having a guest. The hairy, I think it's the hairy chested libertarian on over on Twitter. We're going to be talking about some libertarian stuff. I'm sure the events of the last few days will come up. Anyway, he's a bit of a friend of mine. We met a couple of summers ago down in Nashville. So I'll be on with him at about regular time, 9 p.m. Then I'm going to be off for a week because I'm going to be backpacking in the woods, taking some of my own advice. And after that, I'll be having Brian Niemeyer on, and we're going to have a little chat about just how crazy is or is not Pope Francis. So that's going to be a fun conversation. Brian is making the case that we're actually getting gaslit by the media on who Pope Francis actually is, which he makes a good case, and I'm going to be really interested to hear more about it. So that should be a fascinating conversation. So, in any case, thank you everybody who tuned in, everyone who does later on. Feel free to go ahead and comment, what your thoughts about all of this. I want to know. You can DM me on Twitter at GingermanEditor. And excuse me, I've got to cough a moment. That's what happens when I'm just talking by myself for an hour. Yeah, DM me at GingermanEditor if you get your own thoughts about this. And what do you think is going to happen, right? How do you think it's going to go down? And of course, if you know of any information on this, don't hesitate to share. In the meantime, stay good. Well, I'm not going to say stay safe because I hate that phrase. Pray, prepare, in that order. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, keep fighting.